I'm Lisa from ProWritingAid, and one of my favorite things about my job is that I get to ask experts from all over the place who love writing and books as much as I do to come in and share their skills and knowledge with us. Today, I am thrilled to have Nick Stephenson with me. He's first and foremost an author. He wrote the Leopold Blake series, which combines murder and mystery and mayhem with a good, solid, healthy dose of humor. He's also the founder, and this is where I found him, of yourfirst10,000readers.com. And there he helps authors find their audience, launch their book, build their author profile, and tons more. And I hear all the time, it doesn't matter what kind of session we do, we always have users who want to know how to get their book out there. A lot of our users love writing. They even learn to love editing their book thanks to ProWritingAid. But when they finally have a published ready manuscript, they just don't know what to do next. And for a lot of them, the idea of marketing their book is much more scary than the idea of writing it. So I've brought Nick here today to come and take some of the terror out of marketing your book. So I'm just going to hand over to Nick. Thank you for being here. And I'm going to sit back and learn with all the rest of you. And then in about a half an hour, I'm going to come back on and I will bring all of your questions to Nick. So Nick, I'm just going to hand over to you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And before we jump into everything, quick systems check. If you can hear me, can you just type a big yes in the chat box and we'll just make sure everything's working? Lovely stuff. Lots and lots of yeses and yups. Particularly fond of yups. Can you see the video? You should be able to see my smiling face in the camera. Can you also say yes if you can see the video? Wonderful. Final thing, screen share time. This is where things get complicated and the internet might explode. I'm going to share my presentation and hopefully this will work. So let's see. This is my first time doing a webinar with Zoom. So hopefully I won't break anything. If you could see the slide, could you please also say, wait for it, yes. In the chat box. Fantastic. This is going so well. Normally things break when I try them for the first time, but this is wonderful. So a huge hello and welcome to everybody from all around the world. I expect many of you, just like me, have been stuck inside for the last few weeks. And I don't know about you, but I'm always glad to have the opportunity to come and talk to other real life humans that aren't my three kids. The conversation topics are fairly limited there. So it's always good to come on and chat about book marketing, which is something that hopefully everybody on the line is interested in. So we're going to go through about 30 minutes or so of material, and then we're going to have a Q&A session at the end. So for the sake of Lisa and team, for their sanity, if you have a question, pop it in at the end so it doesn't get lost, and we should be able to cover hopefully all of them. But today we're going to be talking about book marketing basics, specifically with the goal of getting you to a position where you're making a full-time income with your books. Now, a full-time income is fairly vague. This could be a different amount for different people. Whatever your revenue goals are, we're going to take these principles today and you'll see how they fit into where it is you want to go. Because we're going to be talking about mostly principles and then some specifics of what to do. Today's presentation is a condensed version of one I did a couple of months back that was incredibly popular, that ran for about 2.5 hours. So if you would like to get the full presentation, I have recorded that and I'll put a link at the end where you can go and get that to watch whenever you like. And the number one question I get from most people on these things is, will there be a replay? I believe Lisa will be sending out a link either later on today or tomorrow with the recording so that you can watch it at your leisure. So if you have to jump away early, don't worry. So with that being said, welcome to today's session. It's going to be really fun. And we're going to be talking about marketing and book sales and growing your exposure. And this is particularly important because as authors and publishers and authorpreneurs, we know that we have to do something to grow our sales, but we don't really know what. So we end up trying a little bit of everything in the hope that something sticks. And of course, this means that we tend to get very frustrated, very overwhelmed, and it's a bit of a recipe for disaster. So hopefully today, I'm going to be narrowing this down for you. So today we're going to look at a little bit of maths to start off with, nothing complicated, but just so that you can get your head around the numbers and how this all works. And then we're going to talk about the three, what I call pillars of growing your author business. So that's traffic, conversions, and scaling up. And I'm going to share some results with you, some results that we got from Amazon ads, where we ran like 20 million impressions and saw what makes people click and buy, and then of course the Q&A session as well. So my name is Nick Stephenson. I'm a full-time fiction and non-fiction author, course creator, and I co-founded a software company as well because I'm quite mad. And it appears I don't enjoy free time, but I do a little bit of everything. But one of the things that really is consistent across all of these kind of different spaces is the principles of marketing and growing a business and an audience are largely the same. Whatever you're doing online, it's coming down to these three pillars we talked about. And we're going to expand on that today. So I've got 3 kids, quick introduction to them here. Got dogs as well, just to make life even more crazy. And hopefully with today's material, you're going to go away and you're going to start seeing some results. So here's some screenshots of people who have applied some of the things we're going to talk about today and seen some real results. So sales growth, audience growth, and also growing a presence on other platforms as well. So if you're thinking about expanding outside of Amazon, that is entirely possible. It's something that this works well with. Doesn't matter what genre you're in, fiction or non-fiction, these are the principles to grow your business. And for me, the most important thing there is having the freedom to do things that I enjoy. So back in the day when we were allowed to travel anywhere, it was a case of I could go on holiday and I wouldn't have to worry about the business, because a lot of this is running on autopilot behind the scenes. We're going to talk a little bit about that as well, and some examples of real results from real people who have put this into practice too. So it's going to be very cool. My entire life changed as a result of what we're going to talk about today. And as you'll see, it's all about following a system, and that's what we're going to be looking at. So without further ado, let's jump straight in. Now, one thing I will preface this by saying is we're going to be covering a lot of different aspects today, a lot of different cogs in the machine that all fit together. And like any good machine, you'll probably know that you kind of can't take one thing in isolation and expect it to work by itself. All of these things kind of work together. And the idea is that you will work on them kind of one by one so that you don't get overwhelmed, but just be aware that you can't really skip to the end, so to speak. This all kind of builds upon each other to get to a point where you need to be. So with that being said, I want to talk about, first of all, where your sales are going to be coming from. So a lot of people will publish their first book and they'll upload it onto Amazon and the other stores, and then they will sit back and do nothing, or they will start writing the next book, or they will go on Twitter or Facebook or whatever it might be, but they haven't always thought about where the sales are going to come from for that book that they've just published. Now, there's going to be 2 main places for book sales, 2 main sources, and that's going to be people who are clicking through to your book page on Amazon or iBooks or Nook or Kobo or whichever platform they're clicking through to. And it's going to be people from your email list as well. So a database of names that you've collected who are fans of your work. And these are 2 main sources of what we call traffic to your books. And there is a bit of a difference between the 2 of them. So for example, people clicking through to your Amazon book page, if they don't purchase the book, then you may never see them again. And if they do purchase the book, well, you'll never know who they are unless they tell you. So that can be a little bit tricky. Whereas with, people from your email list, these are people who have signed up to hear from you on a regular basis, and you can then contact them again in the future. So there's a bit of a different way that we approach how we use these assets. And your email list, for example, is going to be your #1 resource for launching a new book, running a promotion, and getting reviews. And clicks from email are essentially free, whereas clicks from something like Amazon ads or Facebook ads cost money, and it can be quite expensive. So an email list is an incredibly effective way of getting people through to your book page and promoting your new releases and your promotion. So we're going to be looking at kind of both of these factors as we go through the presentation. So I did promise we talk a little bit about some maths, a little bit of number work, and don't worry, I'm not much of a mathematician, so I'm not going to make it overly complicated. But the goal here is so that you can understand how all this works in terms of like a formula. So how do you know if something's going to be successful? How do you know if something is going to be profitable? If you're going to spend money on ads or you're going to spend money on X, Y, and Z, how do you know it's going to be profitable? Well, understanding your numbers is going to be key to knowing the answer to that question. And there's three kind of main numbers that we want to look at. And I'd love to hear from you briefly in the chat as well, with these three terms at the top here: conversion rate, read-through rate, and earnings per click. 1, 2, and 3. Could you put in the questions box if you've heard of those? So if you've heard of conversion rate, put 1, read-through rate, put 2, EPC or earnings per click, put 3. And if you've heard of all three of them, 1, 2, and 3 in the chat box. I'd love to know what people know about already. So this is fantastic. So a lot of people are saying yes, they know all of them. Some people just know the first one, some people know the second one. So there's a good mix. So we're going to go through it fairly quickly because it's not too complicated, but it's very important. So basically a conversion rate is, of course, the percentage of people who are clicking through and then who buy. So that example on there is a 10% conversion rate. Read-through rate is then the people who then go on to buy subsequent books from you. And this is a very important figure that a lot of people don't think about. And then earnings per click. This is how much you can expect to earn on average for every visitor to your book page or every click through to your book page. So you get a very good idea if you're spending money on ads, for example, and it's costing you 50 cents a click. If you know that you're going to make 70 cents a click on average for each click, then you're in good shape. So that's why we need to know that. Now, if you don't know your own numbers yet, maybe, maybe you're just getting started, maybe you haven't released anything yet, or maybe thinking about this kind of thing is news to you. Well, don't worry, you can work towards it later on. So if you don't have the figures yet, you can calculate them in the future. It's not going to stop you putting these strategies into place, but it will be helpful to help you figure out where you need to go. So an example here with a read-through rate is a good one. So your earnings aren't just going to come from the sale of book one. So if you're writing in a series or you've got a catalog with multiple titles in it, let's say you're running an email campaign to your books or an ad campaign, or somebody's promoting you on their blog or whatever it might be, the sales aren't just going to come from book one. So the example on the screen with Lee Child, you can have a vague guess at what the read-through rate is by looking at the number of reviews. So something vaguely typical might be like this. So for every one person, or for every 100 people who buy book one, 40 will move on to book two, and then 60% of them will move on to book three, and so on and so forth, which means that for every sale of book one, you're actually making extra money down the line. And it could be you're making twice as much as you thought you were, which is going to be very, very cool. And if you want to get a vague idea of what these numbers are, log into your Amazon dashboard, take a look at your earnings over 90 days or so, and then divide that dollar amount by the number of copies sold of your main book. So for people writing in a series, this could be book number one. For people who write in a, not in a series, but have a catalog, this might be your most popular book, but it can give you a good enough idea of what your read-through rate is and your average earnings are. So that can be very, very useful indeed. And the reason we want to know this is because the magic number is earnings per click. If you know how much money you're going to make from every click through to your book, then you're going to be in good shape. As I mentioned earlier, if you're making 75 cents for every click on average, then you can spend up to 74 cents per click, which is a very solid amount. So you're in good shape. So numbers are important. They're not the be all and end all, but if you can get your head kind of wrapped around how your books are performing on those three areas, then you're going to have a good idea of where you need to focus. So numbers are all well and good, but what we want to do is look at the specifics of how to do these three things. So getting that traffic, getting those clicks, converting those clicks into something useful, maybe a sale or an email subscriber so that you can sell to them later, and then how to automate all the boring stuff and scale it up. Because, this something that works and earns you $5 a week is all well and good, but you need to be able to scale that up to meet your revenue goals. And that's what we're going to be looking at a little bit later. Now, there's a lot to cover, but don't worry, there will be a replay coming out. And if you want to get the full session, where I spend a couple of hours going through all the details of this, there'll be a link at the end as well. So it all comes down to these three steps: traffic, conversions, and then scaling up. So we'll start off with traffic. Now, quick word on this one. We're going to be covering multiple sources of traffic and ways of getting traffic, and I do not recommend that you do them all at once. I just want to lay out some of the options for you, but if you try to do them all at once, your head is very likely to explode. So please just pick one or two to start with, get them working, and then you can always move on to the other ones. And the first thing we're going to look at is what we call SEO, or search engine optimization. So Amazon and the other ebook stores are at their heart search engines, and the way that your book is categorized and tagged within that system, within that algorithm, is going to affect the number of people who actually see your book when they're browsing the store. So with keywords and categories, these are two things that we can control to help influence how Amazon displays our books. So the trick with categories is being as specific as possible. So if you're writing in romance, try not to just put your book in the romance category. Try to narrow it down as much as you can. So the example on here is romance, paranormal, werewolves, and shifters. And then there's even smaller subcategories under there by the types of characters that you use. Same with thrillers, same with nonfiction, same with anything you can think of. But Amazon's really good at narrowing it down. So try to narrow those categories down as far as you can. Same with keywords as well. Same with categories. You know, if you are being too broad, you're going to end up competing with hundreds of thousands of other people and you'll get lost. So just like we saw with the previous slide, you want to narrow down these keywords as well. And you get to choose 7 keyword phrases on Amazon, and you can put them in your dashboard, and that's what your book will be listed for. So a relatively easy way to find these out is to go onto Amazon and start typing in what your book's about. So the example on the screen here, a non-fiction example this time, if you start typing in non-fiction, it'll give you some suggestions. And then you can start typing non-fiction A, non-fiction B, and see what the suggestions are. Click through and start looking at the number of search results that come up. If there's fewer than 20,000 search results and the top listed books are selling well, chances are you've got a good keyword result there. Rather than having romance or thriller as your keyword, where you're going to have 100,000 plus other books that you need to compete with, this is a great way of narrowing that down. And this does make a difference. And this is something that you just do once per book, and then you're pretty much done with it. So this is where I like to start, some of the stuff we do beforehand. So we've got the SEO stuff sorted out. So we're going to be hopefully listing within the Amazon algorithms a little bit more effectively. It's time to start looking at ways of getting people to see those books in the first place. And one of the things I always recommend to anyone who's just starting out or who doesn't have a huge ads budget is perma-free, which is basically having one of your books free all the time, and then linking through to your subsequent paid books. And the reason this works is perma-free, permanently free, is a great way of getting extra eyeballs on your books, because free books, if you count downloads to downloads, a free book's going to be downloaded 50 to 100 times more than a paid book. And you're not going to be earning royalties on that free download, but the value is in the traffic. So if you're linking through to your subsequent books and people enjoy them, this is a very easy and inexpensive way of driving people through to those subsequent paid books. So example on the screen here, this is from Lindsay Barocco, who's a very popular sci-fi indie author. She still uses perma-free on her series. Here you can see a couple of examples. And book 1 is free, and then people move on through to the other books. And just look at how many reviews these books have. These are not books that have hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of ad spend on them. It's literally just a great cover, a great description, a great book, and the first in the series is free. So it's kind of permanently popular. And if people enjoy the free book enough, they will move through to the subsequent books. So that's a very, very simple way of getting traffic to your book. So the key here is optimizing for read-through. So making sure you have links to the other books in your series, particularly the next book, if you write in a series, and using something that we call reader magnets, which is an incentive to sign up for your email list. So if you have in the front and the back of your book, for example, a free short story, or similar, or if you're in the nonfiction space, maybe it's a free video or a free podcast and people have to join your email list to get it, then that's a great way to also build your email list at the same time as growing your sales. So it's very effective, and it's free to do. And all you need to do is have your book listed for free on Nook and Kobo and iBooks, and you can use a distributor like Draft to Digital to do that for you. And then when the book is listed for free at those major sites, then Amazon will price match it. You just have to email in to KDP support and say, hey, my book is free on iBooks and Nook and Kobo. Here's the link. would you please price match it for me? And then 9 times out of 10, within a couple of days, they will have done that for you, no questions asked. So that's a relatively simple way of getting it done. And again, you're not paying to do this. You are putting aside royalties on that book to get higher royalties on the subsequent books later on. So very effective way to get started. Next traffic strategy, joint promotions. And the concept behind this is very simple. If you have an audience, even a very small one, then if you team up with 4 or 5 other people, then you've just multiplied your audience 4 or 5 times instantly, because you get to put your work and your books in front of other people's audiences. And a lot of people are kind of really keen on this idea. So this is nothing new in the author space, and people are open to this. And we even have like a joint promotions community that we run. There's joint promotions communities over at BookFunnel, and Prolific Works is one as well. And these are kind of like forums that you can join where people will post promotions that they've got coming up. And if you'd like to join in, then you get the opportunity to do so. So it's a reciprocal thing, but it's a very quick way of multiplying your audience and your reach overnight without having to spend anything. And the concept behind this is very simple. You team up and you just each promote each other's books. And this is something that we did as part of an anthology. I teamed up with 7 other authors to create this book here, which is called 8 the Hard Way. We all included links to our own books within this anthology. And we got picked up by Amazon India, of all places, in January, and got nearly 200,000 downloads in just a couple of weeks. So that was crazy. But this was a case of basically taking a bunch of short stories and novellas that we had already written, combining them into an anthology and putting it out there as a free book. And it's kind of permanent advertising. It's very, very powerful. That's an anthology. This one here was a cross promotion where, again, we had a box set. We'd all contributed a novel, and each of the 11 authors involved had launch campaigns going out to their email list, and we hit the USA Today bestseller list because we all teamed up. So this is something that you can do at any scale, whether you're just getting started or you have 100,000 people on your email list. This is something that authors of all sizes and shapes do very well, and it's a great way of getting that extra reach. Something else that you can integrate into this as well is contests and giveaways. You can do one in participation with other people, or you can do one by yourself. And the basic principle of this is offer a prize. Maybe it's a Kindle e-reader, for example. You can post this prize up on some giveaway sites. A good one is giveawaypromote.com. Everyone who enters the contest gets a chance to win. And then you can email these people with the results of the contest and then invite them to download a short story or a free book or a video or a podcast. And those people who choose to then opt in to your marketing list are people that you can keep. And this is an example of one that we ran where we offered a Kindle Voyage, $200 value. People would enter the contest and then we would email them with the results and invite them to join our newsletter in return for, in our case, a novella. Same here, I teamed up with, I think it was 40 other authors to offer a free novel each. And the winner would get a paperback copy of all of them. So each author would mail a copy to the winner. And again, the principle is the same. Those people who join, we then invite them to stick around. And if they stick around, we'll send them a free short story or a free podcast or something that they'd be interested in. So we're getting a lot of people coming in to the contest, and then we're narrowing it down by only keeping the people who have put their hands up and said, yes, please, I'm interested in sticking around. Please talk to me. And this is a great way of building a list very, very quickly. And here's an example here from Russell Noelty, who used this approach to grow his email list by 140,000 people just in the last year. So it can be very, very powerful. Now, I do understand that I am talking rather quickly because I would like to cover as much as we can in my allotted time. But again, don't worry, there will be a replay. There is a Q&A session coming up, and you can get access to the full 2.5-hour session that I've pre-recorded for you, and I'll get you the link at the end. So if all of this is seeming quite fast and quite quick, then don't worry. It's because I'm talking quick. That's the only reason. But again, remember, we're not doing all of this at once. We're taking 1 or 2 options and we're trying them out, seeing what works for us, and then moving on to another. Another example of traffic is merchandising. Sites like iBooks and Amazon, Kobo, and the like, they have merchandising departments, and these people who work there, they choose which books to feature on their home pages. So Amazon's daily deals and featured deals are a good example of this. And they're very difficult to get into. You often have to be published by Amazon or already be a multi-million copy bestseller. But the other stores like iBooks and Kobo in particular are much easier to work with. Now, if you want to get merchandising with iBooks and Kobo, there's a couple of ways of going about it. The first thing you should do is make sure that on your website, you are linking to the iBooks and Kobo stores and anywhere else you're listed as well. It's just polite because these people will check. And for Kobo, who are very, very big in Canada, particularly, and can shift thousands of copies when you've got a good promo behind you. If you publish direct with them, by which I mean you go to Kobo Writing Life, create an account and upload your book directly, then they have a promotions tab inside your account where you can enter promotions each month. There's usually several per month for different genres, and you can submit your book for consideration. And if accepted, your book will be put on a special offer and given a prominent placement on their page. And this is absolutely fantastic. They're basically the only retailer that does this, and they really do care about their authors. So I definitely urge you, if you are not in Kindle Unlimited / KDP Select, to go direct to Kobo. For everywhere else, there's a distributor called draft2digital.com, and they have a merchandising team who suggest books to go to iBooks. And if you can get into the Draft2Digital platform, get your books up there, they do have an email address within your account where you can, again, submit your books for consideration. So that's something to bear in mind. So that's a couple of easier ways of getting merchandising that anybody can do. And the last couple of things I want to talk about with traffic are ads, paid ads particularly. And there's two main types. There's self-serve ads, or pay per click. You might have heard of those, where you're basically paying by impression or you're paying by the click. And this is usually Facebook ads, and Amazon ads are the main ones. And BookBub have a sort of pay-per-click platform as well that's quite popular. And then there's the email blast ads, which is where your book is featured in usually a daily email of particular genre books that go out to a specific number of people on that list. So BookBub also have one of those. Their featured deals have been around for years, and they can shift thousands of paid copies in a day. And they're extremely popular and extremely difficult to get into. And there's dozens of others, smaller ones like FreeBooksy and eReader News Today, BookSends, and a bunch of others. And if you pay their fee, and your book will get featured in their daily email. With self-serve ads, Facebook has their ads manager. And one of the great benefits of Facebook is their targeting is amazing. So you can target literally anybody, anywhere on the planet. So you could send ads to people who have visited your website but didn't sign up to your email list. You could send ads to people who are already on your email list but haven't clicked a link in an email. You can retarget people. That's what that's called, retargeting. Basically, any kind of combination of actions that you like. And you can create what they call lookalike audiences, which finds people similar to people who are already on your email list, so more likely to buy from you. So that's extremely powerful. Amazon ads, much less kind of wiggle room for targeting there. It's a lot of a more strict ecosystem, but it's very easy. That's the upside, is Facebook ads can be a bit complicated. Amazon ads are very, very easy because you only have like 3 choices to make. You just click a few things. It auto generates the image for you, and you just write a little bit of ad copy, and it allows you to target people by category, by product, or by keyword search. And because people are already on Amazon, then there's generally less friction. So people clicking from Facebook to Amazon, there's a bit of friction. Amazon, they're already there. And then there's BookBub ads as well, which lets you target readers based on which authors they follow. And then email blasts, again, you can submit your book. Sometimes there's a bit of a curation process. You might not get in every single time, but on the smaller ones, usually you'll get straight in. And this can be very effective for limited time discounts. So like a 99-cent promotion, if you're doing a launch or a discount, these can be very, very cool. But they're not something that you can really systemize. because you kind of have to apply for them. You don't always get the dates that you want, but it's always nice if you can plan it in advance and get those set up. And it's particularly effective if you can, what we call promo stack these things. So if you can run, let's say, 5 smaller email blast promotions over the course of a week, you could run one each day, which keeps the momentum going. And Amazon particularly likes it when the momentum keeps going. Rather than a sudden spike in sales, you're spreading those sales out over the week. That tends to have what we call a long tail effect on your results. So an example here, the graph on the screen, we stacked promos over the course of about a week, and then nearly 30 days later, our sales were still 15% higher than they were before the promotion. So that's something to bear in mind with those. Now, as you've seen, there's quite a lot of traffic options, and there's a lot more that we didn't have time to cover. And again, you don't want to do all of these at once, just pick 1 or 2 and focus on one at a time. But you know, with all this traffic that's coming in, what do we do with it? And that's where the next part of the presentation comes in, which is all about conversion. So this is basically getting your traffic to do something useful, which is either buy something right now, please, or join your email list so that you can then sell to them multiple times later on. And the good news about this is once you've set all of this stuff up, you tend not to really have to touch it again, and you can automate a lot of it. So we'll take a quick look at this then. So those 2 main things, we want to convert traffic into email subscribers. And to do that, we're going to use reader magnets. We're going to make sure our website is working and that the free gift that we promise people when they sign up can be delivered, and that we have some emails set up to go out automatically to tell people about our books. The other option is, of course, instead of getting the email subscriber, we want to get the sale right away, in which case we need to take a long, hard look at our book page on Amazon and the other stores and make sure that it is converting as high as it can, which is where this part comes in, which I call book page optimization. So every time somebody lands on your book page, and we'll stick with Amazon as a good example of this, when they land on your Amazon page, most people won't buy. The vast majority of people won't buy. If 20% buy, you're doing incredibly, incredibly well. Chances are it's going to be something around the 10% mark if you're doing everything right. So small changes can have a big difference on profitability, especially if you're paying for those clicks. So imagine you're paying for each click and 95% of them don't buy, you're going to be very sad. But changing that 95% to 90%, so getting your conversion rate from 5% to 10%, can be the difference between a big loss and a big profit. So we ran 20 million impressions worth of Amazon ads to look at what made people click the ad in the first place, and then what made them buy. And we looked at what actually worked instead of assuming, looked at the data, and we were able to more than double our click-through rate. So that's the number of people clicking after seeing the ad, and more than doubled our conversion rate, meaning that's like a 4 times 300% or 4 times more likely to buy it every time the book comes up. And obviously that makes a huge difference, as you can see from the graph here. So that's a snapshot of some of our books before and after we did the optimization. And we focused on improving 2 things. So it wasn't a dozen different things, just 2 main things, the cover and the description. So first of all, we changed the cover because we noticed that our click-through rate was a bit low. So the book would pop up and not enough people would click on it. And that generally means that the cover's not quite right. So we went through a couple of options. Number 1 was the original cover. We changed it to number 2 and we saw a good improvement, but still not quite where we wanted it to be. And then we changed it to number 3 and suddenly sales spiked. And we were a bit flummoxed by this because in my mind, 2 and 3 are pretty much the same cover. But if you look at the way it's shaped with that, especially down on the right-hand side there on the 3rd cover, you've got the figure is walking sort of down. It's almost like a tunnel, the way the image is framed, the way it's been composed. It's kind of this tunnel effect, and the font was red. Those were the only things, and it made a huge difference. So the main takeaway from that was that just because a cover looks nice, because I thought cover 1 was very nice, just because it looks nice doesn't mean that it's genre appropriate, and that's the main thing. So if you've got the most beautiful cover in the world, but it's inappropriate for your genre, then you're going to struggle. So we ran about 500,000 ad impressions per cover choice, and we had some big improvements. So basically, now the book is 4 times more likely to be bought. So it definitely pays to look at your cover. Same with book descriptions as well. We changed our book description and we saw a big jump in sales. I'll give you an example of on here, what I would consider a bad book description of The Martian. And in this case, it's basically just listing out the plot points. An astronaut is stranded on Mars, no way home. He must use his skills to survive. NASA have to figure out how to bring him home, and they've only got 31 days. That covers the main plot points, but it's not terribly exciting. The actual description they used, which is much better, thankfully, is this one. I'm stranded on Mars. I have no way to communicate with Earth. I'm in a habitat designed to last 31 days. If the oxygenator breaks down, I'll suffocate. If the water reclaimer breaks down, I'll die of thirst. If the hab breaches, I'll just kind of explode. If none of these things happen, I'll eventually run out of food and starve to death. So yeah, I'm screwed. So the key here, and I love that book description because it covers all the major details. It talks about, you know, who's the hero, what's his main struggle or the conflict, what are the stakes at play. And it does that in such a way that I can't wait to read about it. And a lot of authors, especially those who write their own product descriptions, because we've just written a novel or a non-fiction book, a long book of some description, it's very difficult to get it into our heads that we have to condense the entirety of that work down into just a couple of paragraphs because it's essentially sales copy. And you have to cover those main things like the protagonist, the antagonist, the conflict, and the stakes. You have to cover it succinctly and in a way that gets people excited rather than just listing out the plot points. And I wouldn't have thought that would make such a difference, but it did. It made a huge difference. Other things to consider: reviews. If you don't have any reviews or you have a poor score, this could be affecting your conversion rate as well. So growing an email list is a great way of getting reviews. The look inside, don't forget to check that. The number of formatting errors I see in there, they shouldn't be there. Make sure you've checked that as well. But with your books optimized for these clicks and conversions, so you've got your cover sorted, you've got your description sorted, the look inside is looking great, it's time to start looking at email lists. And I like to really focus on email lists because this is an asset that you can use again and again. Unlike ads, where you kind of pay for the click and then you may never see them again. If someone signs up to your email list, you can contact them multiple times in the future and you can build a relationship with them, which is incredibly powerful. So, you know, you're going to be earning more money from every click that you get, but if you have an email list, then you're not going to be paying for those clicks, or at least nowhere near as much. And this is where Reader Magnets comes in, which I've mentioned a couple of times previously. This is basically where we offer a free gift in return for an email address to get people on our newsletter. And we put this offer in the front and the back of all of our books, on our website, Facebook page, everywhere we can possibly think of. And then there's a little graphic like this in the front of the book. People see this, they click on it, or they see an ad or a Facebook post, they click on it, they go through to a website page that we call a landing page. They sign up, enter their email address, and they go to a thank you page and a download page where they can get their free gift. This might be a book, might be a PDF, might be a podcast or a video, might be a workshop just like this one. As long as it's relevant to what your audience are going to be interested in, it's going to work for you. So they're getting onto my email list. I'm sending out that free gift automatically. This is everything that you need to have in place. So first of all, your website. And you don't have to have a fancy schmancy one. If you have an email marketing software with, for example, MailChimp or MailerLite or any of the major email marketing providers, a lot of them give you free website pages to collect email subscribers. You can use those. Just make sure that you have some sort of web page somewhere that allows you to collect an email address and allows you to put a bit of text, copy, and images on there. So you want to tell people to sign up in return for the free gift and then give them a little email form or a pop-up button to do that. And then nothing else on the page. No links to your blog or about page or anything like that. Just either sign up or leave. And by doing that, you'll improve your conversion rate significantly. So more people on your list means more sales in the future. So after they've signed up on your landing page, send them through to a thank you page, remind them to go check their email to get their free gift, which means that they'll check the junk folder just in case you've ended up there and move you into the primary folder. And then your email provider should be able to automatically send them that welcome email containing the link where they can go download it. So you can send people through to a different web page where they have the book is available. A great software for this is called BookFunnel, bookfunnel.com. Everything we've just talked about in the last minute or so, bookfunnel.com will do for you. Prices start at £20 a year, or $20 a year, I believe. So it's very, very inexpensive, and it takes all of the headaches out of technology. So all you need is BookFunnel and some kind of email marketing software. Two options there, MailChimp and MailerLite. They are free to get started, and they will do that automated email for you. And then you can set up additional emails to go out at regular intervals to tell people about your other books, which is then going to get you clicks through to those as well. You can introduce readers to your catalog, to the other books in your series. If you do nonfiction, maybe you have courses or podcasts or webinars that you can show people as well. And then when you do run a launch, you know, your next book's coming up, you've got people on your email list who have already put their hands up and said, yes, I want to join your list. I want to get more from you. I'm your fan. So please tell me about upcoming books so that when you run this launch, you're going to have sales out of the gate. And each subsequent launch is going to get stronger and stronger. You can use people to get reviews. You can build yourself a review team, a launch team, and it's really going to boost your sales whenever you do a launch or promotion. And that really is key. So a quick summary, and we're going to be getting onto the Q&A session very soon, but we're optimizing our covers and descriptions. We're using reader magnets, and we are automating as much as the process as possible to get people on our email list. And when they have joined our email list, we are then sending them automated emails, telling them about our other books. When we have a launch, we can send out broadcasts, tell them about this. We can get people to leave reviews for us. And that's the examples I've got on the screen here. Going to be two main types, automated ones and broadcast ones that you send out manually. And again, the key thing to remember is the majority of people won't buy. You usually have something like 10% of your email list will buy everything that you ever release. 10% will never buy anything because they've forgotten why they're there. But 80% are kind of on the fence. And email marketing is designed to convert those 80% on the fences into people who want to buy from you. And that's what we do. So before we have a launch, we start sending out teasers. We send out a cover reveal, send out a chapter, maybe a little sample chapter, invite people to join your launch team or your review team. Start building buzz ahead of your launch. Introduce maybe a little bonus, like a little bonus short story or a bonus podcast or something that they can get if they buy within the first week, and start giving people a little bit extra, a little bit more of an incentive to buy from you. You're going to start getting people getting really, really excited about it, which is always really cool. Because it's kind of like people are saying, can you please hurry up and sell me something? And I get emails from people saying, thank you for letting me buy this, which is bizarre because I've never had that before until I started doing this. It's getting people involved and getting them excited about something that they enjoy, especially if we're offering a launch bonus as well. Giving people a reason to get involved, to buy something now rather than procrastinating and waiting forever and then forgetting, makes a massive, massive difference. Example on the left-hand side there, this was a little sales graph we did. The spike on the left-hand side was when we just sent out an email saying, my new book is out, go buy it. The second spike is where we ran a bit of a pre-launch campaign, gave people a bonus, and you can see more than doubled the results. And you can see a little testimonial from Emmanuel there as well, who also did this. And everyone who's running successful launches is offering little launch bonuses, doing a bit of pre-launch buzz. Makes an absolutely massive difference. And then with the automated emails, I've mentioned these guys before, MailChimp and MailerLite, both free to get started. If I had to recommend one over the other, I would say MailerLite. They have more features out of the box on their free plan. And they have kind of like a graphical user interface. So you can drag and drop your email campaigns around, which is very, very funky. Now, we have covered a lot today, and we've gone rather quickly. And I can completely understand if your head might be spinning slightly. But do remember, the replay will be available, and I'll give you a link where you can go and get the full session that I did, where I speak a little less quickly and go through everything in a ton more detail. So I'll get to that in just a second. But just remember that it all comes down to these three things. So whenever you start feeling a little bit overwhelmed with marketing, you're not sure what to do, think to yourself, Is this marketing activity going to get me traffic? Yes or no? Is this activity going to help improve my conversions, either sales or get more people on your email list? Yes or no? Is this going to help me automate my marketing or scale it up? Yes or no? If you can't have a definite yes under any of those headings to whatever you're planning on doing, chances are you probably don't need to do it. And this is a very nice litmus test whenever I'm offered something or I think of something that I could do. Does it do any of these three things? Yes or no? If the answer is no, I don't do it. Save a lot of time that way. And if you can set all of this up, get it done the right way, you kind of have, like I said at the beginning, the cogs in the machine that all fit together to give you an automated way of getting traffic, converting that traffic into sales and email subscribers, and then sending out those automated emails to introduce readers to your backlist, and then they're ready for you when you have your next launch or promotion ready to go. And then you're getting to the point where the more traffic you send to the top of this funnel, the more results you're going to get. So your job gets a lot less complicated. So when you're putting on your marketing hat, you're no longer head of Twitter and Facebook and Pinterest and TikTok and blogging and all these other things that you have to do. You are now just head of traffic. And all you need to do is get traffic to that web page and you've done your job. So life becomes a lot simpler. And when you get it right, you can have some amazing results. Example here from Russell Blake, who's a very prolific indie author. He used our launch campaign approach to get an amazing result with his new series at the time, which was Ramsey's Gold. And he launched this, I think, at the most expensive price he'd ever done. A launch, it was $8. And it still shifted thousands and thousands of copies in its first week in a new genre, new characters, new series, with no previous buzz. So he was very happy with it. This one is Justin Johnson. Justin spent a lot of time optimizing his books. So looking at the covers, looking at the descriptions, and then particularly looking at the keywords and the categories as well. And he has quite a large catalog, but he went from kind of a handful of sales to sort of 90 to 120 books per day by looking at optimizing everything that we've talked about today. So that kind of worked for him to really realize the potential of his catalog, which was there all the time. It just wasn't coming to the forefront. And then Joanna Penn as well, a New York Times and USA Today best-selling author. She does both fiction and non-fiction. She's got a huge blog and a huge podcast. She does everything. She's even busier than I am. She makes me tired just looking at all the stuff she does. But we did some work with Joanna on the reader magnet side. So we had a look at what we could offer her readers that would get them onto her email list, both for fiction and non-fiction. So we implemented reader magnets and really massively improved her conversion. So her conversion rates went up by over 50%, which makes a massive difference when you have the amount of traffic that she does. And now she has a big email list for non-fiction, a big email list for fiction. So whenever she runs a promotion, she gets great results. And again, if you want to get more, if you want to spend some more time with me, if you're not sick of my voice, then you can get the full fat version of today's presentation, complete with downloadable video and audio, and a transcript for those of you who like to read along. I'll give you the link on the next page. But in that session, it's about 2.5 hours long, and we dive a lot deeper into each of those areas. So each of the traffic sections we talked about, I'll go into more detail. We'll talk a little bit more about how the numbers could apply to you, a bit more about how to do email launches, just a little bit more detail on everything that we haven't had time to cover today. So already run over. I'm very sorry, Lisa, but I will get you the link on the next page because that pretty much sums up what I wanted to show you. And again, it is a lot to take in. And the idea is not necessarily just to hear this once and then suddenly be a marketing genius, but just kind of be aware that there's so many different ways of getting where you need to be. It's the intention is not to kind of overwhelm you with information, but just to illustrate that getting people to your book, there's so many different ways of doing it. There's no shortage of traffic on the internet. There's no shortage of people looking for a good book and who are willing to pay for it. We just need to know how to find them and how to get them to find us. So really this presentation was about showing you the potential of what's there. And then you can take the recording and you can take the slides. You can go get the full version if you want, and you can work through it more slowly. You can pause the video. You can go back over things and you can really see how it's going to fit with your circumstances, because everybody is different. Speaking of which, the link to the full workshop is there on the screen. I wonder if Hayley would mind popping that in the chat if she hasn't
I've already popped it in I've already popped it in the chat there, so you guys can grab it and click through.
So yeah, I'm ready for questions. I've seen a lot come through as I was talking.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions.
So I'm here for as long as you need. So fire away.
Okay, so we may go a bit long tonight because Nick had a lot of information to cover there, and if you're feeling slightly overwhelmed with information, put yes in the chat box. Can we send it when I send my follow-up email tomorrow, Nick? Can I send out your slide deck?
Yeah. So if that link on the screen will take people to the full video of the long presentation, and then underneath it you can download the video if you want to watch it offline. You can have the audio if you're a podcasty type of guy or girl, and the slides are there as well, and a transcript. So however you like to learn, you can get it that way. Yeah,
I think it would be good to be able to take it a piece at a time and think about all the different levels in the process that you've gone through. So I'm going to jump right into questions here because we've got a lot to get through. So one person says, if you don't have any existing list at all, where would you start first? What would be the first thing that you should focus on?
I would do perma-free. So if you have 2 or more books, preferably in the same series, they don't have to be, but preferably, do perma-free because you're going to be getting traffic and you won't have to pay for it. And reader magnets. So offer that free book in the front and the back of your perma-free and your for sale books, and you will start getting what we call organic signups. And these are the highest quality signups that you can get. These are people who have jumped through a few hoops to get on your list because they love you. And the other way I would say is do contests, or in some countries they're called sweepstakes, where you offer a prize, people join and get a chance to win. And then when you announce the winner, you invite people to join your marketing list. And again, offer them that reader magnet. Some countries, I think, have legal restrictions on sweepstakes. I think certain regions of Canada, for example, have some legal things to bear in mind. But the principle is, as long as they don't have to pay to enter, generally you're fine. And I think I was getting subscribers for something like 8 cents per email address with contests, which is about 15 times cheaper than ads. So it's a very quick and inexpensive way of doing it. So I'd focus on those 2 things.
Okay. And I mean, if they're really starting just with manuscript in hand, do they need to be setting up, is the first step to be setting up an author profile, an author page somewhere where their reader magnets can sit?
So if you've got your manuscripts in your hand, you obviously want to make sure it's been edited and you've used the fine folks at ProWritingAid to help you do that. And I'm assuming that your book is ready to go. And you've got an account on Amazon Kindle and KDP, and you're ready to rock. And you want to think about, what can I offer people as a little extra to this book? So usually for fiction, it would be a little short story or a haiku, or even like a character background or a deleted scene or something, just to put in your book and say, hey, if you enjoyed reading this, get your little bit extra here. And then you want to get yourself an account with BookFunnel, and they will handle all of that email sign up and free gift delivery technology for you. And that's probably the easiest way of doing it.
Yeah, email lists are magic, aren't they? I mean,
yes.
I'm on the list of all of my favorite authors, so that when Elizabeth Gilbert, for example, just told me that she's got her new book, City of Girls, out, and she sent me an email, and I went and I bought it immediately because I know that I love her. And that's what you want. The email lists are full of people that want to buy the thing that you're selling.
Exactly.
Right. So there's a couple questions about fiction versus nonfiction. Is the process more or less the same, whether you're writing fiction or nonfiction?
It's identical. And I'd say with nonfiction, there's differences in the experience for you as an author between fiction and nonfiction. The mechanics is all the same. But with fiction, you'll tend to get more people on your email list, but they will only want to buy books from you. But with nonfiction, you have the opportunity to sell things that aren't books in most cases. So for example, if you've written a book about how to build furniture or something less dull, then you could have a video course on that same topic that was priced higher. and you have the opportunity to then significantly raise the average amount that people spend, or affiliate offers. So if you sign up with, if you've written a book about how to build furniture, and a company produces video courses about that and offers you commission if you send them people, then you can do that instead. And that's something that's a lot easier to do with non-fiction, because people have, bought a book or downloaded a book about a particular topic. They're going to be interested in other things around that topic that aren't necessarily going to be books. So with non-fiction, you tend to have fewer people, but they'll usually spend more on other things as well. So it's a different experience for you, but the mechanics are all the same.
Okay, great. Do any publishing, this is from Kevin, do any publishing platforms require exclusivity rights, or can I publish across multiple platforms?
You can publish across multiple platforms. The option, there's an option called KDP Select, which is also kind of known as Kindle Unlimited, where you can voluntarily be exclusive to Amazon, and in return, Amazon will feature you, well, they'll put you in their Kindle Unlimited catalog, which is where readers who have like a Netflix subscription basically can read as many books as they like without paying, other than their monthly subscription. And then you get paid per page read. There's like a fraction of a penny per page read usually. Whether that works out better for you depends on your circumstances, but you don't have to be exclusive with anybody if you don't want to.
Okay, great. A couple of people are quite interested in how you tested your covers. Julie wants to know how long you tested each one.
I will have a look. I'm going to go back to the slide actually, because I spend more time talking about this in the full session.
It's so fascinating.
It is absolutely fascinating. This is like human psychology 101. So we knew that the cover wasn't performing because we ran some Amazon ads, and we saw that the click-through rate was lower than it needed to be. So there's like a baseline with Amazon ads. Your click-through rate should be 0.1% or higher. So 1 in 1,000 impressions should get a click. Amazon ads, because there's so many of them, the click-through rate's generally quite low. But if you're getting less than 0.1%, something is usually wrong with your cover. So we were getting like half that. So we knew it had to be a cover problem. So we went through a couple of iterations of cover. So I worked with the designer, and the way it kind of worked out is he said, the one on the left, if you look at the way it's laid out, it's very much in sort of 3 sections. There's like the top, the middle, the bottom. Whereas the one on the right is kind of like a focus, a tunnel pulling you into the middle. And that composition draws the eye much more effectively than the other composition. Also, thriller books have red fonts. I didn't think it was a thing, but we changed. Look at 2 and 3. There's barely a difference. And it was the red font. It's bizarre. But yeah, so more than doubled conversion rates. But we did, I think, 100,000 impressions for each cover. So how long that takes depends on how much you're spending. But if you're getting 1 in 1,000 clicks, then that is sort of like 100 clicks, which might cost $50. So we kind of spent about $50 per cover on ads to see what worked. And we saw that the click-through rate climbed each time we changed out something. And we just kept going until we hit the baseline we needed to hit. Same with the description as well.
Yeah, and I think that's so important. I think so many writers they're word people, they're not visual people. And I think so often we see writers who have designed, just haven't put the time and the energy into getting the right cover design, because to them it's not an important thing, but it's essential for trying to get people to get a sense of what they're going to read, right?
Yes, absolutely. It's something you learn. I was no good at this, but I just spent a long time getting it wrong. When you spend a long time getting something wrong, you eventually figure it out. So I'm here to help you skip that part, hopefully.
Yeah, well, then there's a lot of professionals out there, or people that just have a good visual aesthetic that can help you with that. So if that's an area that's not so comfortable for you, I think it's worth getting outside help.
And you can research.
Right.
I mean, it's easy to research. You just go onto Amazon, look at the categories, look at the top 100 in your category, try and see which ones are the indie books, because the traditional published books, they might have a marketing spend behind them that we don't have access to, like they might be in bookstores or in airports or something. So try to focus on the indies and see what their covers look like. Look at the composition, the way it's laid out, look at the colors, look at the fonts, and just, you know, don't try to reinvent the wheel. It will bite you. You want to just go with the flow. You want people to
understand what they're going to get.
Yeah. You want to have a boring cover that converts versus an exciting cover that nobody clicks on. Yeah.
What are good AMS CTR rates and conversion rates?
0.1% click-through and 10% conversion rate is vaguely where you want to be. But there's no hard and fast rule. It's whatever is profitable. So, I mean, you might have the worst click-through rate in the world, but if you have a 60% conversion rate, it doesn't matter. As long as you're making money on it is the main thing. So as long as your results are higher than your spend, it doesn't really matter. So this kind of approach is for people who aren't getting the profit that they want. Go back and look at the click-through rate. If you're not getting 0.1%, you probably need to work on your cover. If you're not getting a 10% conversion rate, you probably want to work on your book description as the major factor, and then reviews.
Okay, great. Do you think a free audiobook chapter will work as an email magnet?
Yes, I would be tempted to go for something that's complete, though. I see this a lot. People will offer like the first chapter of something or the first snippet of something, and people don't really want that. People want something complete. It doesn't have to be long, though. So you could have an audio version of a short story that might be 15 minutes long, would perform better than a 15-minute sample of a novel, if you see what I mean. They're the same length, but the former option is a full, complete thing, and that tends to do better.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you're not going to be, you'll be satisfied at the end.
Yeah, I'd rather people want something short, complete, versus something incomplete, no matter how long it is, if you see what I mean.
Yeah. So if an authored book has been out for a while, this is from John, and has done fair, is it advisable to drastically change the cover if you feel it's a little off-putting?
I would look at the data. And the only way to get the data is run ads. And the best data you can get is with Amazon ads. Now you can run Facebook ads, but because we don't know which of those clicks from Facebook is resulting in a sale, because Amazon keeps that to themselves. The only way to get that conversion rate data, and even that's not the best, is with using Amazon ads. And that's really the only way that we can get vaguely accurate conversion rate data. And, you know, it's not perfect. The Amazon ads dashboard often doesn't update properly for a week, or it might miss some. And it doesn't take into account paperback sales or audiobook sales. It doesn't take into account sales of subsequent books from someone who clicked an ad, which would be great if they would just do that. The technology is now 20 years old. Come on, Amazon. They will someday, I'm sure, but for now it's the best we've got. So when you say it's fair, we need to quantify that. You know, what is the click-through rate? What is the conversion rate? Do we think we can push that higher? If you're getting a return on your spend, a profitable ROI on advertising and other things that you're doing, I wouldn't worry about it. I mean, if you think you can do better, then by all means test it. But it's certainly not a prerequisite.
Okay, great. How do you market well on social media?
It's tricky. So social media as like an organic platform kind of tanked about 4 years ago. And to the point where before then, if you put a post out on Facebook, about 20% of your audience would see it, which is great. You know, if you had 10,000 people, 2,000 people would see your post, and you might be posting 4 or 5 times a day with links to your books, and it was all very happy times. And then Facebook got this weird idea that they should be making money, and they started pushing advertising. Now, of course, nobody's going to buy ads if they can just post on their page and get loads of clicks. So Facebook basically killed organic reach on their platform, to the point where, and it's gotten tighter over the years as well, to the point where I think it's something like 1% of your audience will see a post if you're doing well. So for me, social media is more about engaging people in a conversation. And this is something I would say comes later. This is like, you know, get the basics right, start making money, and then start doing your Facebook profiles and your Instagram and all that stuff. Because, you know, it's easier to grow an email list and more profitable to grow an email list than it is to grow an Instagram following or a Facebook following. So I would focus on that first. Instagram and Facebook and those kind of places are really more about having conversations with people, certainly when you're getting started, I'd say. So don't worry too much about it. Okay.
There's a couple of people that have clicked through to that link and they've ended up on a registration page, a webinar registration page.
So just pop your email address in there. You'll get it sent straight to you along with all the details and all the downloads and everything. So I can send it to your inbox directly. Hopefully.
So you're in the right place.
Yeah, you're in the right place.
Okay, great. So my first, we sort of asked that one. What's the typical time that it takes to go from $0 to $1,000 for a first-time author?
It depends. It depends on how many books you get out there. It depends how well optimized they are. It depends on so many different factors. But this is where we go back to looking at the numbers from earlier on. Let me just find it. Here we go. So thinking about your conversion rate and earnings per click. So if you want to get to $1,000 a month, for example, and you're selling books for $4.99, then you're going to get about $3.50 royalty. You're going to need to sell about 10 copies per day. And if your conversion rate is 10%, to sell 10 copies, you need 100 clicks. So if you want to just buy 100 clicks, you could do that tomorrow. Job done. But if your earnings per click is lower than that, then you're going to have to think of, you know, how are you going to get that up? What are other ways that you can get traffic without having to pay for it, like with the perma-free examples and the contests and the joint promotions? So it all depends. And the reason I put down these Jack Reacher books is, you know, he's got, I think, 22 or 23 books out there right now. So his kind of average amount spent when someone buys book one, you know, then he's not just getting $3.50 for book one. He's getting a percentage of that from each subsequent book as well. So he might be making $15 to $20 for every sale of book one. So he doesn't need a massive conversion rate because he's earning $20 for every sale. So there's a lot of different variables to bear in mind. But, you know, if you have the books available to buy and they're converting well and you're making a profit on ad spend, then just turn up your ads and you could be hitting $1,000 a month tomorrow. But you have to do the work to get there first, is what hopefully this workshop has shown.
Yeah, I think so. Well, and I think the quality of, you know, if you don't put the time into making sure that the content of the book is if you spend the time editing it and making sure that it's good and that you're winning over your readers, then that's going to increase your read-through rate,
exactly.
Right?
Yeah. And making sure that a lot of authors will link to all of their books at the back. Don't link to the next one. I found this made a big difference, actually. And especially when you have a perma-free book. So if your book one is free, this has compounded effects because you'll get many, many more times free downloads than you will paid sales. So a small change in your free book to make it better will have a compounded effect over the length of your series. So instead of, when they get to the end of book one, linking out all of your books, which is what everyone does, say short synopsis for book two, buy it now.
Read this next, yeah.
You'll notice the difference.
Yeah, people get paralyzed by if they have to make a decision.
Yes, don't let people.
Tell them what to do.
It's terrible.
Follow instructions. Do you work with individual writers in your program?
Well, I have my training program, Your First 10K Readers. It's a bit of it's a mix. So we have a lot of video training that you can take at your own speed. So all of the kind of headers that we've talked about today, you get it like a dedicated 20-minute video, but you get one-on-one email support, which is what I think is particularly important. So if someone comes to me and says, oh, you know, I watched module 2 and I understand how it works, but I don't know how it's going to apply to me, because I'm writing this particular type of book and my situation's a little bit different. How could I tweak this to fit what I'm doing? That's where I can come and, you know, help you via email. And that's how I work with people at the moment. So don't do like one-on-one coaching, but I have that kind of email back and forth with people to help them apply stuff to their own circumstances, because everyone's different. Like we've had questions on here about how is it different for fiction and nonfiction? You know, how might it be different if I write, you know, short stories? Some people, especially romance and erotica spaces, put out a novella a month or every 2 weeks, you know, and while the principles are the same, there might be some things you might want to tweak. So you might not want to run a big email launch every 2 weeks versus someone who releases 3 novels a year. You can do. Someone releasing every few weeks will want to tweak that a little bit, but keep the principles there. So that's how I work with people to help them sort of apply that to their circumstances.
Okay, great. We've gone quite a bit over. Why don't we do one more? Omar is asking about improving the SEO. Is there any specific method to improve SEO around your book?
There's a couple of tools I'd recommend. Publisher Rocket is one of them, and this is a keyword and category tool. And this has like a link into Amazon's API, and it goes in there and sends a little robot scurrying around to find you all the best keywords and all the best categories you can list your book under, and it will give like a score for which ones are best, it thinks, for you, and then you can sort of test those. Again, it all comes down to the data. The best way to get the data is to run some Amazon ads where you can actually see what the conversion rates are. But SEO, like with website SEO, you know, it's a mystery until you see a spike, and then you kind of do one thing. I mean, we spent years doing blog SEO, and it's even worse than book SEO but the principles are the same. You know, Google will display web pages it thinks you are interested in, that you're going to spend more time on and visit more pages there. So those are the websites that go to the top. Same with books. Amazon's going to display the book it thinks you're actually looking for, you're most likely to buy, and that you're most likely to buy other stuff from afterwards. So it all kind of works together. But I would stick with, you know, just make sure you're narrowing down categories, narrowing down keywords. That's really all you need to know. And there's not much else you can do to influence it. And as your conversion rate improves and your metadata, your SEO improves, that has a cumulative effect. So Publisher Rocket is a great tool. Kindle Spy is another good tool as well. So take a look at those.
Great. Okay, I think we're going to leave it there. I'm sorry, there's still a bunch of questions there, but it's nighttime in the UK, and Nick and I have to go and get our kids to bed. Thank you so much, Nick, for coming and doing this and offering all this information for free. I hope lots of people that were here today will go and dig a bit deeper with you. Follow that link. Tomorrow you should receive a recording of this. Feel free to share it around to people that you know. If there's anyone else that you think will find it helpful, we'll drop a couple of the links in that email as well. We've got ProWritingAid has a book about building an author, building your author profile on a shoestring. So I'll pop a link for that in. And yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I think if you found that helpful, let him know. Oh, there's tons of thank yous there. Look at that.
Oh, that's lovely. And a big thank you to Lisa for having me on. Unleashing me in front of all these people, and a thank you to everyone who came live as well. It's awesome. I think we had like hundreds of people come and actually stay to the end, which is great. I love that. And if I didn't get to your question, I apologize. If you do sign up for the longer workshop, you'll get an email from me with the links and everything. Just reply to it. It will come through to my team. If they can't answer it, they'll send it to me, and we'll get your questions answered that way. So if I didn't get to you, get in touch.
Great. Okay, thank you so much, Nick. And everybody else, don't forget to sign up for the ProWritingAid newsletter, because we've got tons of events like this coming up to help you through your isolation period and keep everyone inspired and busy and productive and writing, more important than anything else. So take care and have a great day. Bye.